Hey guys, what goes on? Greetings from Minnesota. My name is JP and today I will be explaining the history of the Hermitcraft group to the best of my ability through its members, both current and former. Before we start, I want to clarify something. I will not be discussing people that were only members on the modded servers, as talking about the history of that would take up far too much time in this video. Now that I'm done with the explanation, let's get right into the story of the Hermitcraft group. First off, we have the gaming hermit himself, GenerikB. He created the server through Cubetoast using a promotional code, and later stated that Hermitcraft would be fully paid for thanks to the server giving the company so much business. He released his first Hermitcraft video on April 13th, 2012, in which he started in a single-player world, showing off a new invention which took him to Etho's world, then to the first Hermitcraft server. After two failed worlds, the first because of a glitch in terrain generation, and a second thanks to a massive server shutdown, the world known as Season 1 of Hermitcraft started up less than a month after the group was formed. His spawn house was a boathouse behind Exuma's place. His actual base was jungle-themed, underground, and was built around a skeleton spawner. In order to get to his base, you had to pass through what he dubbed the Hermit's Hurdles, a series of traps and challenges of varying difficulty meant in keeping people out. After a devastating prank by the agency, the main part of his base was rebuilt thanks to Topmass and the rest of the Pimp My Minecraft team. Shortly after, a year and 7 days after his first Hermitcraft video was published, he announced he was leaving the server in favor of Minecraft. The server reset for the first time soon after, and he has not returned since, although it can be seen in several videos that the Season 1 Hermitcraft server is still on his server list. When GenerikB started Hermitcraft, he invited 7 of his friends to play on the server with him. 4 are still listed as current members. I will list each one in alphabetical order. The first one I am going to mention is Biffa2001, or simply Biffa. He released his first Hermitcraft video on April 17, 2012, which was clips taken from a live stream of some of the first members exploring a stronghold. Native to England, his spawn house was almost completely made of leaves and jokingly had a free tea sign on the front. His base on Season 1 has become one of the favorites in the server's history, Biffa's Bowl, which was a giant bottom hemisphere in the ocean mostly below sea level, with a massive hostile mob farm in the middle and several chest rooms. The main structure was completed shortly before the server was shut down. During Season 1, Biffa also famously threatened to blow up several members' bases if they didn't give him diamonds, which resulted in several retaliation pranks. In the second world, he constructed an open-roofed spawn house with a checkered floor, which he intended to double as a record shop. He later built a house in New Hermiton inside a large mountain dip, with the same floor pattern as his old building, and a stained glass roof. He also built a food shop called Biffa's Bakery. His base, which was never fully completed, was 2 diamonds floating near the build limit with several farms and a compact chest room. On the current server, he has built a spawn house in Hermit Hills inside a mountain below Pungence, with the most apparent feature being an acacia balcony. He is also in the process of building a museum with everything from the game stored in it. Next we have Hypnotized, or Hypno for short. His first video on the server was published April 18, 2012, in which he and some other members of the server worked to explore Never Fortress. His original spawn house was later taken over by DMAC, so he built a new one later in the season in the newly developed residential district. One of his major projects during the first world was the Enderman Farm, which received additions as time went on. His main base during Season 1 was a giant Aztec-style pyramid thousands of blocks away from spawn with an 8-section iron farm a short distance away. He always regretted moving so far away from everyone else and set up a makeshift tent by DMAC's base shortly before the server was shut down. In the second map, Hypno built a wooden house in the outskirts of the old spawn town, which was accidentally burnt down and rebuilt by Schism and Pungence. He later built a quaint hut in New Hermiton that had several underground levels. He was never very active on the vanilla world during this season, but focused on his base when he wasn't busy on the modded servers, which he runs. His base featured 4 large towers that surrounded a hole in the ground covered by glass. It had several floors, including a cave spider spawner at the very bottom. Hypno also won the ABBA caving tournament during this season, but had to go to court in order to obtain his stolen winnings. In the current world, he has built a spawn house inside a mountain with a wooden bridge leading to the entrance. The third original member was Kiershar, who is known for creating techniques in early Minecraft that are still used today. He released his first Hermitcraft video on April 21st, 2012, which was just a simple tour of the world so far. His spawn house was made of stone bricks and vines, which eventually overgrew the structure and symbolized his absence. His main base was a box in the sky made of snow and ore blocks attached to a giant mob farm, which Exuma redid later in the season. Kiershar produced about 7 episodes on the first server, then stopped making Minecraft content altogether, focusing instead on the military aircraft simulator War Thunder. He came back shortly after Season 2 began, and built a stone brick fort near spawn with a trapped entrance and several farms. He spent 7 episodes working on his base before taking another break. He has since not produced any more Minecraft content in over a year, but continues to regularly post videos of various flying simulators. The next person I'm going to mention is Red Eyes, known for his free-flowing building style and weird but interesting ideas. He released his first server video on April 25, 2012, in which he finds a base location and hangs out with the rest of his server members. His base on the first world was built in a mountain and on the surrounding plains, the area being dotted with various builds, including a minecart crop farm and several chest rooms. When the map reset, Red Eyes built a balcony around a dip and a mountain face, the most notable parts including eyes that follow you as you walk around his chest room, and a nearby witch farm powered by iron golems. He also built a house inside a mountain within the area of New Hermiton. He has not yet returned for the current season, but is still listed as a member on Google+, Reddit, and the Hermitcraft website. The next person was Sean Static, or Static for short. He released his first Hermitcraft video on July 30th, 2012, making him the last original hermit to do so, not including Sokar. His base in the only season he participated in was in a jungle with a village nearby. Static only produced 10 episodes of Hermitcraft before taking a hiatus from YouTube for nearly a year. He has since returned and plans on making regular content again, but stated on Twitter that he does not plan on rejoining the server anytime soon. Next we have Sokar408, or Sokar. He is one of only 2 members to never post any content about the server. The only hint that he was ever active in the group is in Exuma's first video, in which he states that they were planning on building a base together. The final person to discuss is Exuma, or simply X. He published his first Hermitcraft video on April 24, 2012, in which he shows clips of his adventure in finding his base location with Kiershar. His spawn town in the first world was a 2-story wooden building with dispensers for specific potions and some small farms. The nether tunnel to his base led you to a giant map of his island, which he titled Avalon. He built several things there, including a sheep farm, a hostile mob trap, and a park. After GenerikB left the server, Exuma took on the role as leader. He now manages group events, such as server tours, the Abba Caving Tournament, and UHCs. He had a total of 3 spawn houses in the second world, with the first being an adobe-style house with multiple basement levels, but eventually led down to a completely slabbed ravine. The second is what he titled his vacation house, even though it was just across the street from his original hut. He took inspiration from Corralis's build style to construct it. He also built a majority of the farms in Old Hermiton. His final house was in the new spawn town, a modern-style build that was originally designed by a member of his creative server. His base on Season 2 was a monstrosity he called the Wastelands, a desert cleared of all sand and sandstone, with a giant desert temple in the middle which dropped you down to a large hub leading off to the 4 wings of his base. Other projects of his on the second world include the Guardian Farm and the horse racing track. On the current server, he has constructed a witch tower on top of a hill with multiple entrances and a nearby chest room. He has also built several games in Hermit Thrills, helped set up the clay mining outpost, and constructed a squid farm. He is the most active hermit with over 300 videos on the server and has won 5 out of 7 UHCs. When the world we now know as Season 1 was started up, 2 new members were added, Corralis and Topmass. Both are still listed as current members. Kiershar, who is known for his funny euphemisms and gorgeous build style, released his first server video on May 2, 2012. His spawn house was a giant flowing structure with multiple seemingly useless sublevels, ironically titled Kiershar Humble Shack. His base on the first world has become one of the favorites in server history, a sprawling jungle base that included a double skeleton spawner, an overgrown wooden bridge, a stone brick tower, and a courtyard with a giant version of his skin face in the center floor. In the second world, he built a tower-like spawn house with nearby stables. He had a completely black horse named Darth Vader, which Topmass accidentally killed while trying to prank him. He soon got a new horse called Nametag, but the mob went missing, causing Kiershar to search in vain for it. His other spawn house was in New Hermiton, and included a garage and a large backyard garden. His base on Season 2 was a resort he called Booby Mountain, which included several cabins, an airport, and a park. As a side project, he traveled to a mesa biome and constructed a Western-style town there, complete with a church and a bank. He took several short breaks during this world, most likely due to taking care of his newborn child. Shortly after the current world was started up, he came back to Hermitcraft with his wife for the return of his series Wife vs. Minecraft. So far, they have constructed a house in a plains biome near Hermit Hills. Topmass, also known by Minecrafted or his real-life name of Matt, released his first Hermitcraft video on May 11, 2012. His spawn house on the first world was a 2-story building made of various materials with a public chest room underneath. He also built a greenhouse in the ocean a short distance from the spawn town. His nether portal transported you to a small peninsula with a large bridge leading to his area. On this plot, he had a house which was built for him by Kiershar, a couple greenhouses, a mage tower, a coffee shop, and a mountaintop melon shrine. He had a pet pig named Pierre, but the mob only lasted about 5 of his episodes before it was accidentally killed by Spoon. Its funeral became one of the biggest events of Season 1. On the second world, he built a modern-style yellow stained clay house near Booby Mountain, along with a zombie apocalypse survival tent and a stable to house his horse Shadowfax. However, the mob died shortly after when the building caught fire. It is shown in one of Mumbo's videos that Topmass claimed a plot in Old Hermiton, but never did anything with it. He spent several episodes working on a gentleman's club below his house, and got it as finished as he wanted it when he decided to move to the new spawn town. There, he built a small wooden hut by Biff's home, which he never furnished. On the current server, he has built a minecart track from Hermit Hills to his area, which so far includes an underground mining outpost and a hobbit-style home. He has also constructed a game called Lucky Break in Hermit Thrills. Throughout the duration of Season 1, many people were added to the server. I will go through each one of them in the order of when they released their first video. The first person to be added after the start of Season 1 was Brenny Beast, who GenerikB announced was a new member on May 28, 2012, during an announcement video for an episode of his competitive series Redstone Wars, which never happened. He played on the server for a short time, but never posted any content. He left soon after joining to focus on a different series, but Hypno has since stated that he was never really a member. Next up is joehills TSD, or simply joehills. He is a resident of Nashville, Tennessee, and was invited onto the server by GenerikB in May 2012, posting his first Hermitcraft video on the last day of that month. He is known for his goofy sense of humor and imaginative pranks, such as a UFO over Avalon, a giant Rubik's Cube by Mumbo's base, and a rainbow by Biff's bowl. He moved into a spawn house that GenerikB had built and lived there for a short time before setting off to find his own base. His portal transported you to the top of a large jungle tree with large sections of netherrack going out in all directions. You then had to travel through dense jungle to get to his area, which included a stilted wooden house in shallow water, a redstone lab carved into a mountain, a Vex-style monument to show how far he got in GenerikB's hurdles, and a large ship with a cake on it to celebrate him getting a better computer. At the start of Season 2, he constructed the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. He later built his base under the mausoleum and a museum made of endstone that displayed retro video game character eyes. In New Hermiton, he constructed a small circular floating house made of stone and lime glass. He took several breaks during this season, most likely due to taking care of his child, which was born toward the end of the First World. At the start of the current server, he released 3 videos showing his progress in making the bar from the TV show Cheers, but has since released no new content. He is currently listed as an inactive member, but it can be shown in several videos by other hermits that he has done more work on the pub. The next person to mention is monkeyfarm, who published his first Hermitcraft video on July 27, 2012. He is famous for using a custom version of the John Smith texture pack throughout all of his Minecraft videos. He built a small campsite near Corellis' spawn town that had a secret tunnel which led to his base, which was a circular stone monolith supported by large pillars in the ocean a short distance from spawn. He spent a majority of Season 2 working on his skull house in Old Hermiton, but took a break in order to construct a giant tree on a plot in New Hermiton. So far in the current server, he has built a stone brick house inside a mountain near Hermit Hills with a large boat entrance. The next person to be added was Cube Hamster, who posted his first video on August 6, 2012. Known for his redstone skills, he surprised everyone on the server by building a giant mangrove tree as his spawn house. He also had a large flat area in the town to work on his contraptions. He only posted 5 episodes of Hermitcraft before taking a break from YouTube for nearly a year. Upon returning, he stated that he left due to a case of depression but had gotten past it. He has since joined the ZipCrowd server, built a minigame with Sepling titled Missile Wars, and played as a guest in UHC Season 6. The next new member was Sean V. Martin, who was invited by Biffa and posted his first video on August 10, 2012. He originally thought he was joining a creative server and used commands to build a nether tunnel, but quickly removed the build upon realizing his mistake. He didn't construct a spawn house, but rather moved into a building Corellis had made right next to his home. His only builds on Hermitcraft were an incomplete snow lodge, a wooden house in front of a mountain, and a giant bust of his head on an island near Biffa's Bowl. He posted a vlog on his other channel on October 12th of the same year, saying that he was leaving the server due to the fact that he did not like having to create an upload schedule or constantly download snapshots. He has not returned since, but continues to be an active YouTuber. Next up is Jasassin, also known by his real-life name of Jesse. He posted his first Hermitcraft video on April 14, 2012, which was basically him walking around spawn talking about his plans on the server. He built a multi-story spawn house in the newer residential district, but spent most of his server time on his underwater base. His base had several sections, including farms, a chest room, and a mine. He planned on doing more, but time constraints and the difficulty of building underwater meant that some of his ideas never saw the light of day. His final completed project on the first world was a massive underwater dome, which he completely cleared of water, but only put a sheep farm and a few random chests in. He appeared shortly in the second world, claiming a plot in Old Hermiton, but never actually building a house there. He is still an active member, but hasn't played on the vanilla server since early in Season 2. He chooses to focus on the modded servers and also does the coding for the server tours. The next member to be added was I Am Spoon, also known as Spoon or his real-life name of Samuel. He posted his first Hermitcraft video on August 16, 2012, after meeting GenerikB and joehills at PlayOnCon. He is famous for not caring what his fans think, and literally told those who were not a fan of his use of the Johnny Appleseed texture pack to unsubscribe. His spawn house was made of sandstone with a basement and a balcony. His main base consisted of many buildings connected by paths, including an incompleted castle made entirely out of melons, a museum of all the major biomes in the game, and a church which he dubbed the Establishment of Spoontology, most likely a jab at the religion of Scientology. He is also famous on the server for pranking people by spooning them, in which he would fill a part of their base with melon blocks. On the second server, he would disappear and reappear several times, his only completed build being an establishment of Spoontology in Old Hermiton. His last build was a giant hollow diagonal chest in New Hermiton, which he planned on making into his spawn house. He has released a couple of videos on the new server that detail his journey to Hermit Hills and his claiming of a spot under an overhang to build a house, but hasn't uploaded any Hermitcraft videos in a couple months. He is currently listed as an inactive member. The next people to mention are a trio of guys from England who collectively ran a channel called The Pixel Nerds, Joe, Josh, and Alex. They were invited by Topmass, who had done several collaborations with them, and posted their first Hermitcraft video on August 16, 2012. They built a series of structures in their area behind Topmass's base, including their stairway to heaven, which displayed their donators, and a castle that looked like it was pulled out of the ground. Josh left the group towards the end of the first season, stating that he was now bored with the game. Joe and Alex came back for Season 2 and built a windmill in their only posted episode. The last hint of the group being active on Hermitcraft are a couple of cameos by Joe in some of Topmass's videos. Today their channel sits abandoned and the group is only active on Twitter. Next up is Aurelian, or simply Ari. She became the first female to join Hermitcraft, posting her first video on September 10, 2012. Her only build on Season 1 was a mushroom cottage with a dungeon underneath, in which she planned on trapping all the hermits in. She then took a few months hiatus due to personal issues, and came back shortly before the server was reset. In the second world, she built a tower out of birchwood in Old Hermiton and participated in several pranks. She posted her last Hermitcraft video on April 16, 2013. Aurelian has since left the group and joined Minecraft, becoming the first female member of that server. The next person to mention is King Daddy DMAC, or DMAC for short. He originally submitted an application to join JL2579's server, but that request was denied and was asked to join Hermitcraft. He accepted and posted his first video on September 14, 2012, in which he gets a tour around the server from joehills. His base in the first world was a giant sandstone pyramid over an end portal that was surrounded by an 8-section iron farm and had a villager breeder in a nearby jungle. In the second world, he built a community skeleton farm near Old Hermiton and began to construct a lich tower near joehills' mausoleum, but realized the build was taking up too much of his time and handed the project over to Schism and Pungence. He later constructed a modern-style house in New Hermiton. His base was a large man-made island over an end portal. So far in Season 3, he has built a giant house within the dip of a mountain in Hermit Hills with several sections of diorite and lime glass. The next member was Cilantro Gamer, who was invited to Hermitcraft by joehills and posted his first video on September 19, 2012. From the very beginning, he posted very little videos about the server, focusing mainly on Twitch streaming. His spawn house was made of multiple colors of wool and large jungle trees as corner supports. His base in the first world was a series of rooms connected by bridges that ran under a giant mountain overhang. He then left the server, stating that he had lost interest in the game. He came back at the start of Season 2 and built a base near Old Hermiton that included a large item sorting system and a weirdly shaped farm. He posted no videos of his return, but streamed fairly regularly. He also stole Exuma's quartz during the season, and made him go on a treasure hunt to find it. Exuma later retaliated with the help of Corrales by building a giant TNT block by his base that would make timed explosion noises, but do no real damage. He soon left after the prank, stating on Twitter that he had once again lost interest in the game of Minecraft. The next two people to be added were both Mojang's staff, Dinnerbone and Mark IRL. They both streamed on Hermitcraft, sometimes separately, sometimes together, during the month of October 2012, but abruptly stopped and haven't been back since. The final person to be added before the arrival of the Goon Squad was Unhost, who posted his first video on December 19, 2012. He took advice from Exuma and Biffa upon asking them how to be a good YouTuber during a live stream, and became famous for his 120 Facts in Minecraft series. Inspired by Corrales, he built a modern house out of sandstone and birch, with a basement leading down to a mine shaft, and a top floor that could only be accessed by a staircase outside the building. This was his only completed build in the first world, with other plans including a hole in the ground which was intended to be his base, and a basketball court in the games district. He came and went several times during Season 2, building a house in New Hermiton and a fishing shop shaped like a fishbowl. He was removed from the group shortly before the current server was started. Unhost has said during a live stream that he would like to rejoin Hermitcraft, but Hypno has stated on Google Plus that that will not happen until he produces regular content on his YouTube channel again. The next group to be added was a series of 4 guys GenerikB added to help him retaliate against Biffa and Exuma for their massive prank on his base. Each of these new members released their first Hermitcraft video on January 5th, 2013. I will go through each one in alphabetical order. First off, we have B000100, or simply B-Dubs, who is friends with GenerikB on the Minecraft server. He only posted 3 videos on the Hermitcraft server, staying with Kiershar and challenging him to a build-off, which never happened. Next, we have Justra. He built a base on a jungle canopy that even had a small village. He also had plans to build a spawn house in a nearby ravine, but it never happened. In the second world, he came and left several times, never really finishing a build other than his spawn house in New Hermiton. His incomplete builds include 2 failed attempts to make a potion shop called the Juice Bar, and a failed prank in Old Hermiton. Justra posted a video at the start of Season 3, saying that he would once again be returning to Hermitcraft, but hasn't published a video since. He is currently listed as an inactive member. The next person to mention is Pungence, also known by his real-life name of Joe. He converted a buried desert temple into his palace home with the help of Kiershar, whom he never fully paid back. In the second world, he started to build a modern-style house on Justra's plot in Old Hermiton. He and Schism also worked on a pet cemetery and a building company. He built a house in New Hermiton by Schisms, and the pair also stole the Abba Caving winnings before Hypno could claim them. In the current season, he has a base on a mountain next to Schism and is in competition with him to see who can get to 100 diamonds collected first. The final person to be added to the server during this time was Schism. He set up a small village in a taiga biome and was known through the duration of Season 1 for his video intro skits that had nothing to do with what was actually going on. In the second world, he built a house in the outskirts of Old Hermiton that had a nearby stable and a small hut in the new spawn town complete with a backyard pool. He has formed a close friendship with Pungence, and the pair still do a majority of their content together. Only one other person was added before Season 2 began, Kiershar, who is known as one of the first Minecraft YouTubers. His only build on the server was an incomplete spawn house in the new residential district. He only posted about 3 episodes of Hermitcraft before announcing that he was quitting YouTube in favor of Twitch. He has since come back and has joined the Minecraft server. He deleted his videos on the vanilla server, so the only surviving records that he was ever a member are a few videos on the modded server with a video, and an episode in Biffa's series that was published on January 18, 2013, in which he welcomes co-starter Hermitcraft and gives him a tour around the server. When GenerikB left Hermitcraft, there was a massive decrease in server activity. 2 major options were considered, a complete reset and a pseudo-reset, in which they would dump all their items and start fresh thousands of blocks away, only allowed to go back once they had killed a wither boss. In the end, the first option was picked, and the server willingly reset for the first time on June 9, 2013. With the arrival of Season 2, 6 new members were introduced. Only 2 are still active. I will go through each one in alphabetical order. First up is Dutroid, who had a previous friendship with Good that later soured. She only live-streamed on the server twice during the month of June 2013, in which she built the layout for an underground base beneath a bridge, on which she planned to make a toll booth. She has not returned since, but continues to stream on Twitch. The next new member was King Happy, who was known for creating efficient XP farms. He built a replica of a jungle temple as his house in Old Hermiton, along with a nano crop farm nearby. His design for an Enderman farm was used in the second world, built by Exuma. His planned base was going to be a massive man-made tree that was built around a witch farm and had several rooms inside. He announced that he was leaving the group a couple months after joining, stating he was now bored with the game. A month after he left, his channel was shut down due to copyright strikes, even though he claims he never used any copyrighted material in his videos. He has since created a new YouTube channel, but has not rejoined the server despite an outcry from fans to let him back in the group. Next up is Lucklin MCWB, or simply Lucklin. He was invited on the server by joehills and posted his first video on June 14, 2013. He started to build a large house in Old Hermiton, but then left to go on vacation and came back to the build being pranked by Biffa. He announced at the end of his last Hermitcraft video that he would have his revenge, but that didn't happen. He has since left the server, but still continues to post videos on his new YouTube channel and stream. The next person to mention is Mumbo Jumbo, also known as Mumbo or his real-life name of Ollie. He published his first video on June 16, 2013, in which he builds the town square of what became Old Hermiton. He built a spawn house in both towns, an English cottage made of brick in the first, though much later than most, and a modern-style house made of ice and snow in the second. Mumbo also built the same business in both towns, the Redstone Consultancy, in which he would build redstone contraptions for server members. His base in the second world was a jungle-themed home with several redstone builds and farms, both above and underground. He built a fishing village a short distance away with a minecart track connecting the two. He became famous on the server for having almost all of his builds include stone bricks, and vowed at the start of the current season to use them as little as possible. So far in the current spawn town, he has built a hot air balloon as his house and a third redstone consultancy, though this time with an underground lab that can be accessed through the use of a redstone torch key. He has also started on his ice-themed base, which so far includes a giant mob farm and a sorted chest room. Next we have Venom Kisser, a regular Twitch streamer who was invited onto the server by Spoon. She only live-streamed on the server a few times, with her only completed build being a spawn house in Old Hermiton she called her Ice Cream Sandwich House. She had set up a portal in a winding path which led up a mountain to a staircase to the sky, where she planned on creating Olympus. Her last known activity on Hermitcraft is helping Spoon clear a giant hole for what was intended to be his base at the time. The final person to be added at the start of Season 2 was Zombie Cleo, or simply Cleo, who was invited by joehills and published her first video on the day the server was reset. Her spawn house in Old Hermiton was a small temple-like structure made of sandstone. Her house in the new spawn town was two large stained glass towers connected by a bridge of the same fashion. She also ran the server's only newspaper, the Hermiton Herald. Her base on the second world was a museum modeled after the Natural History Museum in London that included a giant dinosaur skull, a lab modeled after Resident Evil, and a large room deep underground containing the monster Cthulhu. Another major project of hers was constructing the Nether Hub, which was never completed. So far in the current world, she has built a tower by False Cemetery in Hermit Hills, a totem pole by the town sign, and has started on her abstract-shaped base. The next group to be added arrived during the month of October 2013, when it was decided that members of the modded server would be invited onto the vanilla world as well. This brought 4 new people, half of which remain active. I will go through the list alphabetically. First off, we have Maryland, who is known more for his coverage of Pokemon games than Minecraft. After the announcement was made, he waited a few months due to personal issues. He posted his first Hermitcraft video on February 4th, 2014, in which he gets a tour around the server from DMAC and Exuma. He claimed to plot in New Hermiton, but never built more than a dirt hut on it. He also constructed the shell of a wooden building with a stained glass window made to look like his skin face looking out at the ocean. On October 27th of the same year, he announced over Reddit that he was leaving the server, saying that he felt it unfair to his viewers being so inactive. He stated that he would like to return, but only when he was better at the game. His post was met with comments from both members and fans alike, saying that he would be welcomed back when he wanted to rejoin. He is still an active YouTuber, being active in multiple series including a single-player Minecraft Let's Play. The next person to mention is Slipgator, who posted his first video on October 21st, 2013. His spawn house in New Hermiton was covered in blue stained glass and had a couple rooms in rooms, which he later downsized in order to allow Zul'jin to build a path to his spawn house. His main project during his first world was his base, which he titled the Ribbon. It was essentially a giant spiral staircase that extended from bedrock to build limit and had several wings shooting inward from it, including a garden built by Corrales and a bedroom made by Zul'jin. He also built a name tag shop in New Hermiton. So far on the current server, he has built the Hermit Hills meeting hall with his spawn house behind it. He has also started on his base in a plains biome near the town, which so far includes an abstract-shaped chest room and a large dwarven-style mine entrance. Next up is Spumwack, also known by his real-life name of Sean Musley. He posted his first video on Halloween 2013, in which he gets a tour around the world from Exuma. He built a mansion on the hill above the Never Portal to New Hermiton, and had a business called Muse Meats, which was in fierce competition with Biffa's Bakery. His base on the second server included a wither-powered tree farm and a massive mob trap. On the current season, he built a small house in Hermit Hills and started on his base, which included a mountaintop observatory and a replica of the game Dungeon Keeper. On January 20th, 2015, he announced that he was stopping all Let's Play content on his channel, including Hermitcraft. He said in the video that he will instead be concentrating on what he titled science videos, claiming that this type of content, in comparison to Let's Plays, give him far more enjoyment and channel growth. He posted his final Hermitcraft video a week later. Finally, we have Tinfoil Chef, or simply TFC. He published his first Hermitcraft video on October 13th, 2013, where he walks around Old Hermiton talking about how grateful he is to be on the server. He is the oldest hermit at the age of 55. He had started working on making a base outside the first spawn town, complete with a large strip mine and several farms, when he decided to move to New Hermiton. There, he built a giant house out of stained glass made to look like a red mushroom. His main base was a castle and surrounding village near the horse racing track. So far in the current world, he has built a giant sphere over Hermit Hills made out of slime blocks and vines as his house, which he calls a hairy eyeball. A few more people joined throughout the duration of Season 2. I will list each member in the order of when they posted their first video. The first person to mention is Jevin, who joined Hermitcraft after meeting Hypno, DMAC, and Jasassin at Minecon 2013, publishing his first Hermitcraft video on the last day of that year. He claimed a plot in New Hermiton, but never completed his spawn house on it. He also built some shops in the spawn town, including a soup shop and a market stall in which he sold diamond gear. He built 2 bases, the first being underground with a giant chest room and an elevator built by Mumbo, his second being in a plains with several greenhouses and farms. He and Zombie Cleo also had a pranking war towards the end of the season. On the current world, he has built a small wooden hut inside a mountain by Spumwack's place at Hermit Hills. He also won UHC Season 3, the only competition that Exuma didn't win. Next up is False Symmetry, also known as True Symmetry or simply False. She posted her first video on June 21st, 2014, in which she helps Exuma and Mumbo prank DMAC and Hypno. Her main project on her first world was her spawn house, which was a short distance away from Red Eyes' place and included a balcony and a nearby underground surveillance building. She also spent a significant amount of time on a section of a horse racing track. Her spawn house on the current server is a mountaintop observatory. During the month of December 2014, she traveled to a taiga biome and built a Christmas village there. She is currently working on her base, which has a beach resort theme. The next person to mention is Zul'jin, who joined with the same prank as False Symmetry and thus published his first video on the same day. His main project on his first season was his spawn house, which was near Corrales' home and included a swimming pool, a gazebo, and a basement chest room. On the current world, he has so far built a giant castle out of diorite on top of a hill and a home design shop called Izea, a spoof of the store IKEA. Next, we have Tango Tech, or simply Tango. He is known for his massive iron farms and released his first Hermitcraft video on July 24th, 2014. although he announced he was joining 3 days prior during his 100K subscriber celebration video. His spawn house in New Hermiton dropped you down from another overworld display to his chest room using slime blocks. His base was originally supposed to be a community quad witch farm, but after a major game update, only 2 worked. He built both of them along with a charged creeper farm and some animal pens. So far in the current world, he has built a large Halloween-themed house in Hermit Hills, helped construct the Enderman farm with Slipgator, and set up the games area known as Hermit Thrills. The final person to be added during Season 2 was XB Crafted, or simply XB. He was invited onto the server by Topmass, and initially only played on the modded server, posting his first video on August 24, 2014. His only build on the second world was an abstract wooden house in the outskirts of New Hermiton. So far in the current season, he has built a spawn house by Spoon's area and constructed his base around a dismantled ocean monument with an automatic chest room and several farms. On October 17, 2014, Hermitcraft reset to its 3rd season. This new server is different in 2 major ways. First off, the world is set to amplified terrain, causing multiple members to complain about traveling over land, but at the same time comment about the beauty of the naturally spawning landscape. Second, for the first time, no new members were added after a major map reset. Though since the new server started, 3 new people have joined. I will go through them in the order of when they released their first video. Impulse SV, or Impulse for short, was a guest in UHC Season 6 and most likely joined due to his connection with Tango. He posted his first video on January 11, 2015, in which he helps build the Quad Witch Farm. His only build so far is the start of his spawn house in Hermit Hills. The final 2 people to mention are Etho and DocM77, who is also known as DocM or Doc. Both are also members of Mindcrack and play on the Hermitcraft Infinity Mod Pack server. Etho released his first video on May 3, 2015, in which he gets a tour from Biffa, whom he played with on the Mindcrack Crack Pack modded server. He has picked out a jungle biome near Hermit Hills as his base location, and has recently used TNT to clear out the entrance area. Doc published his first video the next day, in which he gets a tour from False Cemetery, although he states in the video that he had recorded with Exuma about a week earlier. He has a bit more history with the Hermitcraft group, managing a server with Exuma called the Respawn Network, and competing as a guest in UHC Season 7, winning the competition with the help of his teammate Zombie Cleo. He has picked out an area by Zul'jin's castle for his spawn house, which so far includes a small villager trading area and a 4x4 door. To my knowledge, this is all that has happened on the Hermitcraft server so far. I want to clarify that this video is current to when it is published, and I will most likely be making an update video in a few months. I will also be updating the description if I become aware of any mistakes. Below is a link to the unofficial Mindcrack and Hermitcraft wiki, where I got a substantial amount of my information from. But anyway guys, that's all she wrote. My name is JPGRRocks, farewell from Minnesota, and I will see you next time.